Sometimes life sucks, and it really knocks you down, but then you remember, you still have Zeebo videos to make. Hey, I'm Derek, it's me, Derek, and last year, I talked about the Brazilian wonder, the Zeebo. The Zeebo was a Brazilian-made console created as a response to the broad casual appeal of the Nintendo Wii and the lucrative digital-only walled garden of the Apple App Store. It was also an attempt to legitimize gaming in places where the gray market and bootlegging had taken over, places like India, Mexico, and of course, Brazil. The Zeebo was a genius idea, but in reality, it was a cheap system running subpar cell phone tech that made game development extremely difficult and expensive. Of course, there's a lot more to the story, but basically the Zeebo failed on a level I don't think any video game console has ever in the entire world. However, this behind-the-scenes perspective only tells one side of the story. There is another angle on this disaster: the games. 57 games were released in total for the Zeebo, and when I tell you it's some of the worst crap I have ever played, I mean, when I was a kid, I played Doom 32X for fun. And because Zeebo emulation is still some ways away, I had to run the gauntlet for you all. Though I can only hope that one day running the Zeebo gauntlet becomes a real thing, because the Zeebo is not just a Scrooge McDuck dive into a dumpster of obscure shovelware. The Zeebo didn't fail from lack of trying. There was a genuine attempt here. They managed to snag hits from Capcom and Namco and more. By tracking the games in chronological order, we can be almost right there front and center for this disaster through all the missteps and all the attempts to save this train wreck. I am here to play and review for you every single Zeebo game. But first, this video was sponsored in part by RayCon. My life before RayCon was garbage. How did I even do it? But now I'm free to decompress with my family on the couch, listening to a podcast, and look at this. No wires in the way of petting the pups. RayCon earbuds are perfect for me time. Not only does my Metal Bangers playlist hit a lot harder, thanks to its customizable sound profiles and noise isolation mode, but I love the battery life. It lasts for 8 hours of straight playtime. But you don't have to take my word for it. RayCons have a 30-day return policy and are 15% off for my viewers. Click the link in the description box below or go to buyraycon.com/SSFF and get 15% off your RayCons. Try out the earbuds co-founded by Ray J and endorsed by Snoop himself. Dog approved. Again, that's buyraycon.com/SSFF. And on to the video. Wait, this is a digital only system, so technically this is a delisted. But these games are weird as hell, so it's a punching weight also? You know what? It's both. It's a deep punch listing weights ed. Hell yeah. The specific release dates for Zeebo games can be kind of sketchy, though I'm fairly confident I got the chronological order. Or at least on the Brazil side of things. And speaking of which, while Mexico is the only other country that can claim the Zeebo, Brazil was the country it was first released in, and it's also where it received the most games. Plus, release dates between the two countries aren't always synced, so sticking to one country is just going to be easier. But of course, no disrespect to the Zeebo-shaped mental scars left on Mexican childhoods. So the Zeebo launched in Brazil May 25th, 2009, but wasn't available countrywide for some time. It received a slow rollout, with Rio de Janeiro reportedly being the first place it was available. But when and how it rolled out isn't really important, because between May 25th and May 27th, 10 games were released, and it wouldn't be for another 3 weeks before a new release. So anyone getting a Zeebo a little late on launch wasn't really missing out on anything. Also, this would be the most prolific period for the Zeebo. Yes, this is already technically the peak. Strap the hell in. There were 3 games pre-installed, packed into the systems, and we will start with the most obvious game to launch in Brazil: football, FIFA 09. And of course, I want to do right by my Brazilian friends and call this football, not soccer. All right, what the hell is that? Wait, so on the menu it says FIFA Soccer 09. In the game, it just says FIFA 09. Well, what the hell do I call this game? Okay, I may be way out of my depth here, but like, isn't it weird to launch a football game in Brazil but call it soccer? Isn't that like wrong? I'm gonna say right up front, this video right now, this is the most FIFA I have ever played in my life. So I don't know if this is actually a terrible version of FIFA 09, but I will say this is basically the DS version of FIFA 09. And I was gonna go out on a limb and say that your average football fan was getting their football fix with bootleg copies of FIFA on 360. Hell, probably on PS2. Okay, look, here's FIFA 06 on the PS2. And again, I don't know a whole lot about these games, but I'll tell you this, I'm having way more fun watching this than I was playing this. This game is 3 years difference here. I can't imagine a single person in Brazil could have been impressed by this. And they packed it in with every single console. And I'm not just saying that because I could not score a single damn goal. Oh, actually, I did score one goal, but it looked like the game glitched out and just like gave me a pity goal. I don't know. I don't know how to play football. I don't even really like football. Either footballs. But I know enough to know that this ain't it, Chief. Like, of course you're gonna launch in Brazil with football, but I don't think this is the football game that's gonna make it happen. I don't think this is how you get them. I'm guessing. And then to top it all off, this game was pre-packed in with every single Zeebo, but that does not mean it was free. Because if you deleted FIFA 09 but wanted to play it again, you would have to buy it for 1,990 Z credits, whatever the hell that translates to, probably something like 20 bucks. And my heart wants to blame EA for this, but this really could have been anyone's moron decision. We are off to a great start. Let's keep going. Another pack-in game was Need for Speed Carbon. All right, another EA banger. And you know how it is, man? You're burning through the city, getting caught up in the underground, and you're outrunning cops. Not exactly in this one. Check this out. I'm apparently going 240 kilometers an hour, aka 150 miles per hour. I have one car behind me, there is zero traffic in front of me, and the Zeebo can barely keep up. And there's not even that much for the system to render. There's pop-in on the horizon, super stuttery frame rate, the camera's jolting around for some reason. This might be the slowest and most boring racing game I have ever played. Though it is not the worst racing game I've ever played, that will be coming up in a little bit. Hang tight. But of course, EA put a Need for Speed game on the Zeebo. Need for Speed was huge. They were pumping out these games annually. It was a big get for the system. And for what it's worth, yeah, I guess Carbon here on the Zeebo has a sprawling city to explore. But it might be the most empty, nothing open world game I've ever played. Okay, sorry, wait, actually there are the occasional box to destroy for bonuses, and taxis. Taxis? Why are there taxis? No one lives here! Who are you picking up, and where are you taking them? I guess there are the police chases, and they are pretty exciting. I mean, I was expecting a very compromised racing game here, but this was still like worse than I was expecting. I had to investigate further. This sent me down a rabbit hole because I was so blown away with how terrible this was. Okay, so this is actually not Need for Speed Carbon. This is Need for Speed Carbon Own This City, meaning it is based on the portable versions of the game, specifically the PSP version, not the main console version. And to be fair, it does say so on the title screen. But the icon on the Zeebo menu is the console version. Like, that's the cover of the Xbox 360 version, and that does not say Own the City. Now, I can't speak for how this appeared on the actual Zeebo store, but this is some false advertising. And what's funny about that, because this is based on the PSP port, this means that even though this game takes place in Coast City, the map is based off of Rockport, the city from Most Wanted. But what that means is, even if this was a good game, which it is not, it wasn't just released 2 games late, but it is mostly based on a game 3 games ago. It is based on a game released in 2005. But the Zeebo port here was released in 2009. But I looked things up, the PSP and the DS game are a bit empty as well, but man, at least the PSP game had some flair, had some style. This game is as bland and boring looking as possible. And despite being bland and boring, the Zeebo struggles to run this game. It's impressive. I kind of appreciate it. Like, well done Zeebo team, well done EA. You all came together and made something so bafflingly terrible that I'm impressed. Good for you. And here's our last launch pack-in game. I thought this was an original game for the Zeebo, but no, this is a port of 2007's Brain Challenge by Gameloft and Ubisoft. They published this Brain Academy-like on mobile, iOS, Mac, PC, everything. Though it says a lot about the choices that I've made in my life that the Zeebo port here is the first time I played this game. A classic genre from the casual gaming boom of the mid to late 2000s, this game brings relatively fun minigames to stall my brain's inevitable Zeebo-fueled decay. We got use logic to guess the heaviest thing, use quick math to move along a path of numbers, guess the ball bouncing the highest. It's, you know, it's fine. I mean, this is about 5 years past the brain age train at this point, but I'm gonna give it some extra Uncle Derek points for the low language barrier. Despite the fact I could not read anything, I was still able to figure out what the puzzles were and did okay. There's not much to it, but so far, it's the best Zeebo game yet. And that is actually it for the pack-in games. Not a great showing, but hey, don't forget, a launch day is nothing without some other launch games. We got 7 more to go through, so let's go. First up, Action Hero 3D Wild Dog. Though it sounds like the name of a fake game used in like a bad sitcom, this is actually a port of a Korean mobile game originally released in 2006 for Brew OS cell phones. For anyone who forgot since my last Zeebo video, Brew is the foundation of the Zeebo and is a terrible Qualcomm-developed operating system that launched with a rap song.
I'm telling you, my cellular, the way that I connect with the family, that's the way I come correct. What's up with you, dude? You can't step to me.
Fire. Anyway, Wild Dog is a weird Viewtiful Joe ripoff? I mean, if you're gonna rip off any game, Viewtiful Joe is one that needs more love, no doubt. That 3D character on a 2D plane look certainly has its charm, but it has absolutely none of the depth of Viewtiful Joe. Though not bad for a game designed for a flip phone number pad. I found it incredibly easy, some decent brainless fun. For a 2006 flip phone game, yeah, pretty cool. For a home console game played in a living room on a couch, I'm gonna need to speak to the manager. For what it's worth, while the gameplay is kinda weak, there is a lot of it. There seems to be a story, and lots of dialogue, multiple levels, unlockable enemy bestiaries, a shop to buy items and upgrades. The language barrier prevented me from really getting very deep in this game, but there seems to be a lot of style, a lot of personality, and some decent replay. I mean, check out the menu here. You get a different dance animation for each option. Who's putting in that much work for a Zeebo game? I just gotta respect it. As we will see, it can get so much worse. I would actually put this one near the top of the pack. So you know what, Action Hero 3D? You keep on wilding out, dog. You earned it. Next, the first of what would be many Namco games for the Zeebo, Alpine Racer. This is a port of the iOS remake of the then 15-year-old Namco arcade game. Alpine Racer also rounds out the launch sports games, but it's nothing compared to even FIFA 09. At least that looked like football. This game is kind of like a work of art. We got some cool bass thumping synth music, but no sound effects as you're actually carving through the snow. Really visually is where this game, air quotes, shines. It's less of a skiing, snowboarding sim, and more like an art game where you slide from one poorly shaded, high-angled polygon to the next. To be fair, it is definitely not a game you release in 2009 to impress really anyone, but it is also like a beautiful low poly nightmare. Visually, it is a beautiful mess of a game. Really, with Alpine Racer on the Zeebo, you have to make your own fun because, as far as I can tell, this game is just 3 races and roll credits. You choose between 2 characters, they have 3 races each, roll credits. Seriously, that's it! I think I beat this game in 30 minutes. Each character has a prologue and an epilogue, like trying to tell a big story. For what? The only real positives besides, I think it looks good in a bad way, is that it's kind of easy, and it starts off with a Brazilian Portuguese language option. It did give me the option to play the game in English, which I actually needed because there was a surprising amount of story to read. But when you boot the game up, Brazilian Portuguese is the first language option that it gives you. This is actually a problem that I will be pointing out to you as we continue down this list. But in conclusion, Alpine Racer gets the thumbs up for that good Garbo, baby. Next, our old friend, Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart 3D. Now, I made a whole video dedicated to this surprisingly good game with its crazy lineage. Too bad the Zeebo version sucks. The AI is way more difficult compared to the other versions for some reason, though you can play this with an actual controller instead of a number pad or a touchscreen. It's too bad the Zeebo controller also sucks. And speaking of which, let's talk about the Zeebo controllers. The main Zeebo controller is the hollowest, cheapest Wii Pro controller wannabe piece of crap you can imagine. With the biggest, squishiest D-pad I've ever smashed my thumb against. Maybe it could steer a submersible, but here it could hardly steer our good friend Bash Cranda Smush. But this port is based off of the iOS version, which means motion compatible. Enter the boomerang. Continuing the Wii ripoff trend, this is a bent-up Wiimote, or at least one with fewer buttons and is not as good. I guess just think of it as the Wiimote with funky mode. Actually, aesthetically, I'm all for it, but in practice, nah, this thing is trash, and not the good kind, because of course it is. It's somehow both too sensitive, but also not sensitive enough. It's hard to know where your center is. Plus, the jump buttons are asymmetrically placed on this random spot near the bend, which is a choice. There really should have been trigger buttons, but hey, I was not part of the crack engineering team that birthed this monstrosity. I mean, actually, I gotta give it to the crack team at Zeebo Inc. They did the best with what they had, which was not a lot, considering that parent company Tectoy was basically bankrupt and Qualcomm gave them only $10 million and then left them on read. So in conclusion, Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart 3D is one of the best games on the Zeebo. And that says more about the Zeebo than the game itself, really. Oh, and the audio is, of course, legendary. Yep, this is about as good as it's gonna get, and we are still just getting started, friends. All right, but next, we have the one legit, for real, genuine good game on the system that is also an exclusive, Double Dragon. Listen, we joke around, we have a good time around here, but like, real talk, this game is a banger. Double Dragon on the Zeebo looks and plays like crazy good. First off, it's one of the few Zeebo games that is not in 3D. The 2D pixel animations look incredible. Look at these combos. Look at these guys in the suit doing these crazy combos, and check out this whip. Simon Belmont wishes. The combat has an impressive amount of depth. Like, it's a brawler. All you need to do is walk to the right and punch and kick. But this game, for some reason, goes like 20 extra miles. You have punch, kick, jump, and a special move button, which lets you do cool uppercuts. You can also do dashes. It's got air juggles, lots of weapons to pick up, and the whole thing just moves really good. The controls are really responsive, and again, the animations, it just all feels very satisfying. Also, did you hear the news? The Zeebo, now on sale! Ugh, I know I need to rescue Marion, but what if they run out of Zeebos? I gotta get one now! They're on sale! And also, I guess this means that the Zeebo is officially canon in the Double Dragon universe. That's official. Update the wiki. Bimmy and Jimmy love playing their Zimby. So most people watching this video have probably only played the NES version of Double Dragon, so this whole game might look totally new and fresh. But that's because it's mostly based on the arcade version, not the NES version. However, most of this game only appears in this game. Levels 3, 4, and 5 are completely exclusive to this version. So we have a lot of exclusive content, right? But the peak is without question the 4th level boss, Saber, who looks like she just stepped out of a BlazBlue or Guilty Gear game. What is she doing here? Digging through the Zeebo catalog, your jaw will be hitting the floor for a myriad of reasons. This right here was the only time I actually went, holy shit, that is awesome. Aesthetically, she looks a little out of place, and also she has like twice as many frames of animation on her attacks, but they all look so cool. I guess getting into the Double Dragon lore for a second, this character's name is Saber and only appears in this Zeebo version. She is very similar to another character, Lavis, who only appears in the iOS version, which plays very similarly to the Zeebo version, and is another completely original digital-only game that has been completely delisted. So call her Saber, call her Lavis, or call her the single coolest thing hiding on the Zeebo. But speaking of that, get ready because this game has an extra mode that lets you play every single enemy in the game. Every time you beat the game, you unlock a new character. and each character has its own specific moveset, though few have as many moves as Bimmy and Jimmy, of course. I had to beat the game with 7 different characters before I finally got to my girl, Saber. Which sounds like a lot, and I guess it was, but the game is only 6 levels. And when you play as the bosses, a lot of them are super overpowered. I actually had a lot of fun spending hours playing this game to unlock my girl. And then I got to use her cool special, which is a one-hit kill for everyone, including the final boss. Bam! One shot that final boss. I never thought the Zeebo would ever make me feel this cool. So to wrap up, Double Dragon Zeebo is a banger. It is so ambitious, so unnecessarily deep, it is punching weight as hell. It is also delisted as hell. This game is a major reason why we need Zeebo emulation. Unfortunately, because of the way this entire damn system was created, that is still a ways away. If you have watched even a portion of Matt McMuscles' 11-hour video of every Double Dragon game, you will know that Double Dragon port quality varies wildly. So it is crazy for me to say that this is a stone cold banger. And I hope that one day we can all play it. Up next, all video games should be preserved, even the bad ones. Maybe especially the bad ones. Like our next launch game, Prey 2 Evil. Prey Evil is a sequel/reimagining of the 2006 Xbox 360 and PC game that Bethesda functionally bought the rights to just so they could reuse the name. There was a cancelled sequel in development hell for years, but during the wait, we got the mobile game Prey Mobile 3D, aka Prey Invasion, or as it's called on the Zeebo, Prey 2 Evil. Oh my god, it was here all along! Prey 2! Only on the Zeebo! Okay, I'm just goofing here. It only says Prey 2 Evil on the Zeebo menu. Between this and Need for Speed Carbon, that is 2 strikes of just straight false advertising. And if it seems like I'm going into a lot of history as a way to stall before actually talking about the game, you're right. There is not a lot to this game at all. Despite apparently being a big deal on Brew mobile phones in 2007.
Think mobile can't handle a first-person shooter? Think it can.
Not so much here on the Zeebo.
Think Zeebo can't handle first-person shooters?
Okay, so maybe this was good for mobile, but Prey Evil here highlights a huge problem with the Zeebo. This is supposed to be a home console. You just can't put this on a TV and expect someone to enjoy this in their living room in 2009. Brazilian gamers may be deprived, but they're not dumb. They were not gonna fall for this. The weapons in Prey Evil have no punch to them at all. The enemies are big and imposing, but they also just kind of warp in a puff of smoke, and without a whole lot of animations or sound effects, the action is just not satisfying at all. The textures and the world you explore are kind of interesting, but also big and empty with not a lot going on. But the objectives were just complicated enough to give me a hard time figuring out what the hell I was supposed to do, where I was supposed to go. I guess I will give them credit for including the walk on the wall gravity stuff. Kinda. I played this game for a while, I found it utterly boring, and I was completely lost, but luckily, there were 2 other FPSs that also dropped on launch day. The punching weight series that keeps on giving, Quake, got ported by in-house devs at Tectoy to the Zeebo. Now maybe it's not fair to compare a 1996 game to Prey 2 Evil, but Quakes 1 and 2 have a solid showing here. I am basically a Quake console ports expert, but I was not prepared for this to be quite possibly the best Quake console port ever. Of course, not counting the ones that Bethesda put out a couple years ago. It plays great, or at least good enough. There is a lot of slowdown, but at least the entire game is here. Well, there's no music or multiplayer, so most of it's here. Look, calling this the best Quake port says more about how compromised the other console ports were. It's the best by a technicality. Quake 2, on the other hand, does have music, even Portuguese voiceover. Oh, but this controller, man, I can't tell you enough. These analog sticks are too close together. Who designed this thing? Now, to be fair, there was a third Zeebo controller, a redesigned model called the Dragon. Now, maybe it would have played better on this thing. I cannot say, I did not have access to one. But for the record, I did try Quake 1 with the Boomerang to check for secret motion controls, and I mean, well, it's doing something. I couldn't stop rotating to the left. When I shook the boomerang controller, it opened up the menu, and the D-pad worked, but holding to the right wouldn't stop me spinning to the left. Obviously, even analog McClunky thumbs here is better than this. But there's not much to say. 2 Quake classics launched with the Zeebo, and they're both good ports. But if your best sales pitch is Zeebo, we got Double Dragon and Quake and an alright Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart, you're in trouble. And by the way, Prey and Quakes 1 and 2 would be the only FPSs on the system, and for some reason, Mexico Zeebo never got any of them. And who the hell could say why? So little about this machine makes any sense at all. And that was it for the 10 launch games waiting for the Zeebo Day Oneers. Now, it is not rare for consoles to launch big with a ton of launch games and then have a bit of a release drought. And the Zeebo was no different. There wouldn't be another release until June 16th, 3 weeks later. And what did Zeebo fans have waiting for them? Pac-Mania. Just Pac-Mania. Nothing, not a fancy remake of Pac-Mania. Just arcade Pac-Mania. You know, the best Pac-Man game. The main menu just says 1 player, 2 player, help, and exit. I can't stress to you how much that's it this was. There was basically nothing. Are you serious? Actually, on the Zeebo menu, they try to zhuzh it up a little bit by slapping a 3D on there. Which, no. Again, false advertising. This game is not 3D, it is isometric. It is the same isometric snooze fest it has always been. I'm just saying it ain't no Miss Pac-Man. Come on now. But hey, every system's gotta have Pac-Man, right? So in a way, this kinda legitimizes the system. It makes the Zeebo official. And certainly, the Zeebo had more coming. Just sit tight, folks. More games are coming. Don't you worry.
Zeebo. 2 months later.
Yep, Pac-Mania would have to hold Zeebo fans down until August 11th when the next game came out. The Zeebo has been out for almost 3 months and has 11 games. 1 game in June, 0 games in July, but then comes the big boys. On the same day, August 11th, Zeebo gets probably its most famous game. The reason probably anyone outside of Brazil has ever heard of this thing, Resident Evil 4 and Ridge Racer. Resident Evil 4 Zeebo Edition is something we've covered pretty thoroughly in the past, and that is because it is based on the mobile version of Resident Evil 4, which, if you are new to the channel, yes, really did happen. RE4 Mobile is a pretty deep rabbit hole, but the quick version is that it was first released in 2008 on Japanese flip phones and was later released on iPhone, iPad, and Android, but not before coming to the Zeebo in 2009 because life is beautiful. The iOS and Android versions would see some extra content and upgrades. However, the Zeebo port is based on the Japanese original, so for example, the Japanese flip phone version had the enemies all blue for some reason, so they are blue on the Zeebo too. I saw someone make a mod for RE4 Remake, calling it the Zeebo version, where they made all the villagers blue, and I am all for more Zeebo in the zeitgeist. The more people are talking about the Zeebo, the happier I am. However, that's not really the Zeebo version, that's actually like Japanese flip phone brew. But whatever, death of the author. Blue villagers means Zeebo, I'm fine with that. RE4 Zeebo Edition is really a game that speaks for itself. But what you are seeing is some of the best you're gonna get on the Zeebo. Genuinely. Now, RE4 is a very, very large game, which is why the mobile version is separated out into missions, missing huge chunks of the entire campaign. Worse still, for some reason Capcom didn't release this game finished. RE4 Mobile didn't get the full campaign until DLC for the iPhone version after that had already come out, which is pretty Capcom even for Capcom. But this means the Zeebo version only has 12 missions, stopping halfway through Salazar's castle. This is a good time to point out that Resident Evil 4 Zeebo has the distinction of being the most expensive Zeebo game ever at 2,490 Z credits. Again, whatever the hell exchange rate that is. Yeah, premium price for half a game. That's how you video game business. Or that's what I had heard until I saw this video of Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart 3D being 3,000 Z credits, so I have no idea. I'd wager that that is too much money for both of those games. Shrinking RE4 down to a flip phone and then blowing it up onto a TV with the Zeebo makes it one of the ugliest games you will ever see in the pre-Unity era. The music also exists somewhere between performance art garbo and truly objectively terrible. I mean, the look and sound of this game actually circles back around to being legitimately creepy at times. There's a lot of talented people doing low poly horror stuff in the indie scene, but I don't think any of those people could on purpose make a game like this. But also, it is still Resident Evil 4. It's still kind of fun. The fact that it's a bad version of a weird port also kind of enhances that. And for some reason, this game never made it to Mexican Zeebos. So this one belongs to Brazil. This is a Brazilian exclusive, whether they want it or not. And many of them did not. As luck would have it, the official Zeebo Brazil YouTube page is still up, and the first video on that channel is the release trailer for Resident Evil 4, and I just had to go see what Brazilians' gaming community thought of their country's very own Resident Evil 4. First off, check out that dislike ratio, looking good. This one says it all. Better buy a PS2, it costs the same and is better. This guy gets it. How dare you launch a console like that? This is pitiful, it's a shame, it looks like Resident Evil 1. And no need to insult the first Resident Evil, man, easy. And yep, RE4 on PC is the full game, and cheaper. This console is rubbish. How is this shit gonna compare with PS3 and 360? These two go well together. This guy murdered Resident Evil 4, agreed. But up here we have a different perspective. I try to put a lot of faith in Zeebo, but it is just so difficult. This is a shameless game. Whew, savage. And really, this was Zeebo's biggest mistake. Brazilian gamers, they were not gonna fall for this. This was a machine for nobody, except for weirdos like me 15 years later. This is absolutely the worst version of Resident Evil 4, but it is not even close to the worst Zeebo game. Again, Zeebo emulation does not exist right now. However, if you really want to play this, I wouldn't say it's quite worth the money tracking down a Zeebo that still has this game installed. You'd be better off just trying to get the iOS or Android version. While Double Dragon is probably the best actual Zeebo game, RE4 is the huge air quotes best Zeebo game. If nothing else, it is definitely the most interesting thing about the Zeebo. But RE4 was part of a 1-2 punch that killed off any hype for the system with Brazilian gamers. They waited months for RE4, but if this didn't deliver the final blow, then it was delivered by Ridge Racer. Friends, I play a lot of Garbo. You know Uncle Derek needs his good Garbo from time to time, so believe me when I say, Ridge Racer Zeebo is one of the worst games I have ever played. It's bad before it even starts, because I'm going to show you real-time footage of waiting for Ridge Racer to load. So Ridge Racer is now loading. There's no animations on the screen. There's nothing actually happening, but trust me, this is real-time footage. Ridge Racer on the Zeebo is in fact loading. And you know what? For fun, let's compare this Ridge Racer to PlayStation Ridge Racer. So Ridge Racer is a PlayStation classic. It was a launch game in both Japan and America. So this is one of the earliest PlayStation games ever made. Oh, and the fun thing about those early Namco PlayStation games, they did take a long time to load, so they gave you little mini games that would kill time while you waited for the game to load. I didn't manage to finish this mini game. If I had, I would have gotten some special unlocks. Boom, and here we are already done. I gave the Zeebo a head start. We still beat the Zeebo. Okay, let's jump ahead here. Let's see how long it takes for me to finish this race versus how long it takes the Zeebo to finish loading, to start the game. Okay, so the Zeebo's going, but don't get too excited. That is a screen that says, hey, it's gonna take a little longer to load this game. At a minute 20 that shows up, and we are still waiting. Okay, we gotta skip forward again. Okay, so, a minute 56 to finish loading. It took me 2 minutes and 10 seconds to do that entire race. The Zeebo took as long as almost an actual race of Ridge Racer to load Ridge Racer. And for what? Look at this. I am pretty confident that this is objectively the worst Ridge Racer ever made. It looks and runs absolutely terrible. There are only 5 total cars on a race. There should be 12. Oh, and this is a port of the first Ridge Racer, which means it only has 1 track, like 1.5 tracks. Again, this is 2009. Like, they couldn't even port Ridge Racer Revolution, which was just like a expansion pack of the first game. No Rage Racer, no Ridge Racer R4. No, they wanted to port the 16-year-old original. And what do they have to show for it? A game that doesn't even have engine sound effects for your cars. Oh, by the way, I hit that wall on purpose because I just had to test if there were any sound effects in this game. I mean, you look at Resident Evil 4 and you kind of go, yeah, of course this looks bad. What is the excuse with this game? It boggles the mind. Holy crap, and the music is... Remember this song? Okay, hold on. This really fun, happy, hardcore song from the first Ridge Racer. You want to hear that through a Zeebo? But the more I listen to it, the more I kinda like it. This music needs a name, and I'm calling it Zeebo Core, a new genre in music right now. Zeebo Core. It's like dancing in a dumpster, but sanitary. Zeebo Core. It is just an absolute garbage heap of a game, and it doesn't even have motion control support with the boomerang. God, this game sucks. And on top of everything else, there's the possibility that playing it might corrupt your games or brick your system. We will talk about that a little later. So if you do get your hands on a Zeebo and it has Ridge Racer installed on it, do not play it. Which, for the record, if you've seen our other Zeebo videos, you will know this Zeebo is not mine. Shout out to our buddy Rockman KB. He hooked us up with a fully stocked Zeebo that allowed me to make all these videos about the Zeebo. And Ridge Racer could have destroyed all of that. One of the huge problems with the Zeebo is that it was supposed to be cheap and easy to develop for. Turns out the opposite was very much true. And Ridge Racer, I think, is like the physical, tangible truth of that. It takes 2 minutes to load this awful, ugly piece of crap because the Zeebo is just that difficult to program for. Okay, you know Uncle Derek, I'm a pretty happy guy. I like playing bad games. I can have fun. But man, this one made me angry. This was the first time going through the Zeebo library. This one just hit different. This one just made me mad. Now, it may have just been general Zeebo fatigue, which definitely happens after you play too much Zeebo. But I really feel it in my heart that my anger was justified. This is just an awful game. And again, I don't think you can point at the developers for this. You gotta point at the Zeebo itself. It should not be this difficult to put the first Ridge Racer on a Zeebo. That it apparently was that difficult, I think says it all. Which meant that it was time for Tectoy themselves, for the Zeebo people themselves, to come correct, to show us how it's done. So on August 15th, just a few days later, we get the first Zeebo Extreme game. We're going first party game, we're going in-house, this is Tectoy, this is Zeebo, these are the people. If anyone can show us what this machine can do, it's these people. What do you got, guys? This is Zeebo Extreme Rolima or Ruleman. I wasn't sure what the hell Ruleman is. Oh, it's apparently some kind of racing game. And yeah, like right away, this is like the best looking 3D Zeebo game yet. Smooth frame rate, moving really fast, popping pretty bad, but yo, compared to Ridge Racer and Alpine and Need for Speed, this is a huge improvement. These controls ain't so great though. All right, starting to get the hang of things here. I guess it's, yeah, I don't know, it's not that bad. I'm either getting a hang of these controls or I'm entering like a later stage of Zeebo madness, and my standards are just dropping rapidly. It's hard to say, but you know what? I don't care. I'm too busy being a rule man, and a rule man only cares about one thing: the road and victory. Oh shit, big jump at the finish line. Second place, come on. We got this. Hell yeah. Wait, what? Second place? Wait, what? I got robbed. I got 0.3 of a second? Unacceptable. Time to break out the secret weapon. The boomerang. It's so bad. So this game does this really demoralizing thing where if you hit a wall too fast, you just bounce off of it and it stops and goes no, and then resets you. Sorry I was going too fast. Sorry I was being too real of a rule man. I don't know what happened there. So like, as you can see, the boomerang also kind of crap, but you know, a real rule man doesn't blame his tools, right? And then hell yeah, first place. But 258, I was slower, but got first place, so boomerang is OP. But this game is just like mediocre, mid, average. I guess we're looking at the first true 100% Zeebo exclusive game. And yeah, I don't know, it's pretty cool for a PS1 game. Something to consider though, the last games that Tectoy themselves had hands on were Quake and Quake 2 way back at launch, almost 3 months earlier, which suggests that this game was made in under 3 months, which is either really impressive or explains a lot. To me, it says that Tectoy was really trying throughout the Zeebo's short lifespan. there were so many genuine attempts to try and pump some life into this system. The Zeebo records so far, pretty spotty, but they were trying. There was an attempt. They were putting in the hours. They were putting in the work for what it's worth. And I just gotta respect that. But another noteworthy thing about this game, it came out August 15th. The next set of games would not come out until September 28th. A month and a half later, there was nothing until Armageddon Squadron, which is a Polar Bit joint. Now, Polar Bit is actually a bit of an MVP here. We've actually already seen some Polar Bit action. They were responsible for Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart 3D, and you know what's great about them? It's good to show pride in your work. In the credits, they claim that this is a Zeebo top-notch title. They might be the only people proud of the Zeebo, and I'm happy for them. Alright, so let's see what this top-notch title is all about. Can we get some music? Is there... no? This is it? Oh god. Bounce. Bounce. Okay. I'm terrible at these games, but I appreciate that they just bounce you up back in the air. So Armageddon Squad is aerial dogfighting. I'm really bad at these games, so I couldn't really tell you if this is a good one, but seems alright. My plane is farting. That's probably not good. Let me know in the comments if farting planes are good or realistic. Okay, I gotta put the music in from the title screen. I need something here. Okay, whoa. Guys, this is way too intense now. I cannot handle all this dogfighting. Whoa, buddy. Can we just take it down a bit? Let's take it down. I need something less intense. Hell yeah. Nice and easy. Just nice, relaxing airplane flight through this canyon. It's like a nice Sunday stroll. It's just... the Zeebo's nice. Did you ever think that Superman 64 was like too intense? Armageddon Squad, a top-notch Zeebo title. Mission failed. Armageddon Squad was just the first of 5 games released on September 28th and 29th. The drought was over. 5 hot new Zeebo titles, and I'll be honest, Armageddon Squad wasn't really my thing, but it seemed pretty legit. And releasing on the exact same day, September 28th, was also Iron Sights, another military action game. We see Polar Bit's name at the start, however the credits do not proclaim that this is a top-notch Zeebo title, which for me is like the seal of quality for Zeebo. So, I'm a little worried. Iron Sights is a turn-based strategy game, the only one on the system. And it's actually not that bad. You move your different mechs around, strategically placing them around the uneven terrain. It's actually really great, until you have to aim, which is so freaking hard. The path of your missiles is that dotted line that very quickly swings past your target. It is nearly impossible to properly hit anything. I was able to find some footage of someone playing the iPhone version, uploaded in 2009. I am so glad these old videos are still around. And aiming on the iOS version has a meter like you would see in a golf game. Never didn't have any dots for the aiming, and he seemed to have no trouble hitting stuff without the dots. Maybe I'm missing something? I played this game for a bit to see if I could finally get my head around all the nuances of the aiming and the movement, but you know, I really wanted to like Iron Sights. I love a good turn-based strategy game. And, you know, maybe if this was the only video game and the only video game system I owned, I could probably master those nuances. But unfortunately, ain't no one got the time for that. Solid showing, solid attempt, but what do we got next? Zeebo Family Pack. Alright, good family entertainment after all that intense military action. This is a minigame collection of 7 games. What a value! Dirt bike, slot cars, billiards, a kind of alright puzzle bubble. Yeah, not a whole lot to really talk about here. Except for this pirate-themed Bejeweled ripoff that's kind of fun. Makes me wish I had the real thing. As luck would have it, released on the same day as Zeebo Family Pack was Bejeweled. And check it out, yo! It's Bejeweled. And I mean, hell yeah, Bejeweled is awesome. But it's also just Bejeweled. And this was just the first of a few PopCap bangers that would make their way to the Zeebo, but in the same vein as Pac-Mania, like, yay? Of course, you gotta have PopCap games on any device that can run them. but for some reason, this game takes a really long time to load, which makes about as much sense as Ridge Racer taking a long time to load, which in a way probably says all you need to know about the Zeebo. It takes a long time for Ridge Racer and Bejeweled to load up. I don't know. But you know, otherwise, hey, it's Bejeweled. There's nothing else to say. I mean, they were trying to get that casual market, so I guess this is a win for moms and grandmas everywhere. The last game in this group of 5 is another Zeebo Extreme game from Tectoy, Air Race. And this one was released a month and a half after the last Zeebo Extreme game, so Tectoy is pumping these out pretty quickly. And like the name suggests, this is airplane racing. These types of games have never been my forte, but I gotta say, yo, this game moves real fast, and when you hit the turbo, mercy, do not hit the turbo. Oh my God. I managed to win the race, no problem, with sparing uses of the turbo. Though I would happily watch speedrunners master these games' controls and then just obliterate these courses. That would be awesome. But all that being said, Diddy Kong Racing, it's not. But so far with these Zeebo Extreme games, they look and run smoother than almost any other Zeebo game. This one solves a problem with having lots of pop-in by having a whole bunch of fog kind of in the distance. The result is ugly, but at least there's not like very aggressive pop-in on the horizon. I don't know, they're figuring stuff out. You can see in real time that like maybe they're starting to get a better understanding of how to utilize the Zeebo as best you can. But like we will see with all these Zeebo Extreme games, they are boomerang compatible. And I'm just gonna let my actual first impressions show you how that went. I'm going so fast. How do I slow down? Oh my God. Unplayable. Holy shit. Dude, this is killing my arm. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, wow. Wow. Might be hard to believe, folks, but this is only the beginning. I haven't done this since 2010, but there's literally too much Zeebo for me to fit into just one video, which is why I decided to split it into 2 parts, baby. And let me tell you, you are not ready for the depths we are about to plumb. So look for that in a couple of weeks. Sorry for the delay in the videos lately. I have had a few tumultuous life events happen this year, but I'm finally getting back into the thick of things. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for subscribing. Join the Patreon, and we'll see you again real soon. Also, no shelf talk today, but like, hey, look at the plushies. Look at all these plushies right here. Usually I put video game collection stuff on the shelves, but nah, plushies. I filled it with all the plushies that Grace and I have, so there you go.
Mostly me.
Mostly Grace, yes. We got a couple of donations from friends and people. So anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you again real soon. Join the Patreon. We got exclusive content coming on Patreon. All right? More Zeebo. Zeebo forever. Zeebo for life. Stay powerful. Take care.